own name.
Amen. You believe that dead things can come alive? Guess what? If you're not dead, God's not done. And if you have a pulse, that is proof that God still has things for you to do. Amen? I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you are, your circumstances. God's not done with you yet. All right, you may be seated. Need to make sure that you are aware of that. Thank you. No, you're good. I am done with you, yes. All right. Sunday school. Thank you, Mel. Kids, you can make your way out. We have a couple of announcements. Number one, we have a women's meeting in person on the 23rd, on Saturday. On the 23rd, on Saturday.
Yes, you're all very excited about that. Yes, we are doing a women's meeting on the 23rd in person on Saturday here. It was going to be Zoom, but you know what? We're not doing Zoom. We're doing it in person. So for all of you ladies who have been looking for connection, looking for authenticity, this is it, and this is the answer, really. We've been hearing from Pastor Linda for years now about the rest of the gospel, but there continues to be more and more revelation every single time you sit and listen, and then you hear more revelation when the sisters share about particular ways that this is being applied, or ways that perhaps we're struggling to apply this to our real life situations, and then we get clarity on that. So this is really the rest of the gospel. You know, in the summer, we're looking for rest. Vacations, we're looking for rest. This is really it. So ladies, I encourage you to come in person. It's really, it gives you rest that nothing in this world really can give. So I'm encouraging you to join us the 23rd, 9 a.m. here, ladies.
All right, thank you. Men, not to be outdone, we have a fire meeting this Thursday. That was so weak. There's one guy in the whole room went, yeah. Guys, come on. Yes, thank you, Kevin. Yeah. And listen, if you weren't here last week was, I don't know the last time I left a meeting. Last week was amazing in terms of the sharing. And we want to commend you as the body. You stepped up big time, right? And you get straight A's for last week, really, for what was shared in here from the book of Ephesians. I was floating as I left here and the conversations that we had. So I just wanted you to know that. So if you weren't here, you just missed a great meeting. Sorry. No, you didn't. It wasn't that great. All right, really was. Okay, anyway. Well, I'm going to start. So we're done with Ephesians. We're officially done. Do you feel like how I feel as the teacher sometimes? Do you feel that way when you finish a book, like in church? Or is it something like you're like, what's next? Or how do you feel? Honestly, how do you feel? Some of you don't care. You're like, I don't really care. I get that. You miss it. You miss Ephesians already? You miss Paul? Because we're not going to be with him for a little while. Yeah. All right, so where are we going? Well, I'm going to segue into this. Ready? I'm going to segue into where we're going. Ladies, I have some bad news for you. And this isn't for all the ladies in the house, but generally speaking, it's football season again. Yeah, it's football season. And there are a couple of you maybe that you're really into that, but guys, right, it's football season. Yeah, right? Better response than the fire meeting. What did you say back there? What? Yeah, hope springs eternal, right? Jets fans, yep. Yeah, I didn't say it, you did. So it's football season from now, so every week, right? From now until maybe February, the beginning of February, there's going to be football on TV, and some of you are like, oh, right? I know my sister-in-law is here, my wife. You're not too pleased with that, right? The reality of that setting in that we're going to be watching football. All right, anyway. There is a term that is used, and everybody, even if you never played sports before, and this is a term that a lot of times we will hear during the football season, but you also hear this term in the corporate world, whether you're in the business world, wherever. Ready? Here's the term, and I'm giving you the title of my sermon right off the bat. Ready? So the title of the sermon and a term that you are going to hear, ready? Next man up. Next man up. So what does that mean in sports? If you're like, I don't know what that means. Well, next man up is, in sports, if somebody gets hurt, right, it's, hey, who's on the bench that we can bring in? Who's the next person that is going to step in, right? You following me? In the business world, somebody gets fired, right? It's like, hey, I didn't look for this job, but you got promoted, and you're the next person up, and you're thrust into this position. Now, my favorite story of all time, since it is the beginning of football season, I'll take you back, and many of you saw the movie and you know this character. He's my favorite football player, I think, ever. Just because when you look at his story as a Christian, I take you back to 1999. And in 1999, there was a preseason football game, and it was this week, right, 26 years ago, that there was a guy that was on the bench, and he was just languishing on the bench. You know, a year prior, he was in a food store, and he's packing, he's putting food on, from the back, and he's putting it in the aisles all over the place. He works in a food store. Yeah, you guys know Kurt Warner. How many of you know the story of Kurt Warner, right? He comes in 1999 in a game. Their star quarterback gets hurt. And here is this guy. Ready for this? He had thrown 11 passes in his entire football career before being put into this position. You're going to now be the quarterback for this team, the St. Louis Rams. Well, as God would have it, he winds up leading his team to the Super Bowl. Not only the Super Bowl. Hey, guys, can you put up my slides? Or you can put, oh, there we go, right? Here we go. There he is right there. That's a picture of him. He goes from being a stock boy in a food store to a backup quarterback to a Super Bowl winning quarterback that year, leading a team, and nobody knew who he was, right? And then he eventually gets enshrined in the National Football Hall of Fame later on in his career. Talk about next man up. He's the next guy. This is a crazy story. One of the craziest stories ever. And the best part of the story is that he's a real Christian. Not some guy that's like, hey, I want to thank God for... No. Kurt Warner is a real deal Christian. Puts his money where his mouth is. Amazing. Next man up. So, but even outside of sports, think of like other cases. How about this one? Ready? I was thinking all week. I'm going, Steve Jobs, right? Remember when Steve Jobs, he passes on, and this guy, Tim Cook, has to lead Apple. How do you take over for an icon? How do you take over for somebody that is legendary in so many different ways? Or one of my favorite stories, how about this one right here, right? Any of you know the name Oliver Tambo? Probably not many of you in the room. You do. Not many other people probably know who Tambo is. He was the guy that is leading in South Africa, the ANC, the African National Congress, before Nelson Mandela comes in power. Amazing story that these two guys are together. They had a law firm. Did you know that Mandela and this guy had a law firm before he went to Robben Island? He would spend 27 years on Robben Island. He's put there, and he's not released until 1990. But their story is so amazing. He gets out of prison, and then he's thrust into the spotlight, and he winds up running South Africa. He's the first black man to be elected president, right, in South Africa. His book, his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, he said, I felt the weight of a nation's hopes. The fear of failure was real. The immense pressure of taking over for this guy who is his friend and confidant, this guy Tambo, how hard that was to be thrust into this position. And he does it. Got to give you one more? All right, you're in church, so I'll give you this one. This one is also one of my favorites. How about Billy Graham and Franklin Graham? Father and son. I mean, right? I mean, amazing, right? How do you take over for Billy Graham, the greatest evangelist in American history? Hey, okay, here you go. Here are the reins. Here you go. Figure it out. No, it's next man up. You got to figure it out. You're taking over for what your dad did in 2000. He takes over, and he wrote this in his book, Rebel with a Cause, 95. Did you know he went to the Stony Brook School and got kicked out? 1995. Did you know he went to the Stony Brook School? Franklin, can I just give you a little, because that's where I went. Jameson goes there now. Johnny, you went there. Mrs. Canis was on the board over there. The Hales. Sorry, you're still on the, I'm shot. Okay, sorry. Still on the board over there. But this little school over there, it's so funny. I'm like laughing. Did you know he gets kicked, he got kicked out in his senior year? He was worse than I was when I was here. I know that. So he got booted out in his senior year, but he writes this book, Rebel with a Cause, and his big complaint, and he writes this in the book, talks about how strict it was, too strict. So he was like smoking, he was like drinking, he's like kind of doing his things. Now I was crazy when I was in school. I wasn't smoking, and I wasn't drinking, I was crazy, right? And some things, my son's here, so I can't really say. I'm going to hold off on maybe some of the wilder stories, but interesting anyway. But imagine this guy having to take over for a legend, for an icon, what that would be like. Well, this is the intro I wanted to give you today for where God is taking us, the book of Joshua. This wasn't on my list for the last couple of weeks, and God kind of led, and through Pastor Linda, maybe directing a little bit. I'm eventually going to get to Romans, but this is a great segue, I think, moving into the fall after what we just talked about with the book of Ephesians. The book of Ephesians talking about our spiritual inheritance as Christians. I'm going to walk us through, and I'm not going to go verse by verse, but I'm going to move through the book of Joshua in the Old Testament. And you can see the title of the series here as there it is, all right? And the subtitle is just Walking in the Promise. Walking in the promise, going into the promised land. So if you would, I'm going to just hit you with the first 9 verses today. Today is the syllabus. Scott, oh my gosh. Hey, Scott is back in the house. Brother, good to see you, man. How you doing? How you feeling?
Good. I feel real good. Thanks.
You look good, brother. You look good. No, honestly, you look great. So good to see you back in the house. Wow. Okay. Back to... All right, this is just the syllabus, the beginning of the story. I want to set the context and talk about who this guy Joshua is. Because even for me, I'm talking to Pastor Linda the other night. I asked her a question. I wanted to see if she knew the answer to a question that I was like, right? You remember we were having this conversation? I'm going, I don't think I didn't realize this when I was studying or just have looked at this book in the past. Some amazing things are going to come to light. So I'm going to start here just again, the first 9 verses. All right, there's a lot to unpack. All right, here it is. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass, the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun. I could just stop right there. Hey, dad humor, dad jokes. Who is Joshua's dad, right? He's the son of Nun. It's so stupid, right? Just pretend I didn't even say that, right? That's cornball humor. All right. After the death of Moses, servant of the Lord, came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Okay. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, famous Jordan River, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving to them, the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you, as I said to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and of good courage. For to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. This goes all the way back to Abraham, right? Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So here we go. Book of Joshua spans about 25 to 30 years, right? Joshua, main character, obviously, Moses is dead. He will live to the ripe old age of 110 years old. Now, here's a question. Ready? Here's the question I asked Pastor Linda. All right, and I want you to say it to the person next to you, and then we'll talk about this. What age do you think Joshua is at the beginning of the book here? Just turn to the book. How old do you think Joshua is when this starts out? A lot of you have been in church for a long time, study the word, right? God, what do you think? How old do you think he is? Even if you don't know anything about the Bible, just take a guess. All right, don't use your phones, don't cheat. Okay? Do not cheat. No Google, no AI. What do you got? What do you got for me? Come on, somebody over here, yell it out. 80. Somebody over here. 80. 20s? 20s. 30s, right? Probably 30s. What do you got? 60. 60, 30. You're going 60, 30. What was it again? You said 20s. 70s. Wow, you're all pretty good. Did I set you up with like trying to get you on this one? You know how old he is, scholars believe? He's between the age of 80 and 85 years old. Wow, ready? Here's a picture. This is what, all right. So I'm looking around all over Google. Give me a good picture of like an old Joshua. I always had the idea that he was probably he's probably in his 40s or whatever. So how can we then ascertain that he's probably between the ages of 80 and 85? Can I just give it to you? I'll unpack it quick. Remember today, context. Just giving us like a basic outline, getting us into this. Remember when the spies were sent out by Moses to go look, and there's giants in the land, right? And they see the land flowing with milk and honey, and grasshoppers. We were like grasshoppers in their sight. We're like really small, right? And they go in. They come back. We know that Caleb at that point is 40 years old. Bible tells us, right? So if it's now they've been in the wilderness, Joshua's going to be the one to take them in the promised land. It's not Moses. It's going to be Joshua. So if Joshua is probably somewhere around the same age as Caleb, that leads us to believe he's probably between the ages of 80 and 85 years old, right? Now, it changes, at least for me, it changes things a little bit because I'm sorry, y'all, if you're 80 to 85 years old, I'm thinking this guy who's in the wilderness, like he's looking for the early bird special at the Wilderness Diner, right? Like he's looking to get, he wants the special on the manna. He's going in there. He wants to get a deal, right? This guy he has a double ARP card like what we would have here in the States. This guy's old. It's at this point in his life you would think that he'd be hanging up his sandals. You would think, right? Like, hey, it's been a great run. It's been a great run. Amazing, he was faithful, and all these people that are going to die in the wilderness, but not Joshua and Caleb, they're the ones that came back with the minority report. They're the ones that come back and are like, no, we can do this. God is going to go before us. We believe that this can happen. So here is this old man that is going in, and God's like, next man up. Moses is dead. Boom, you're in, Joshua. Come on, get in the game, Josh. It's time. It's time for you to get rolling. There's a lot that I need to do. You have to come in. Here's another thing. Ready for this? This is crazy when you think about it. There are roughly, scholars estimate, there are 2.5 to 3 million people that were in the wilderness. Moses parts the Red Sea. The Exodus takes the children of Israel, right? They move out of Egypt, out of bondage. They're in the wilderness for 40 years. There's 2.5 to 3 million of them. They estimate if there are about 1.2 million people that die in the wilderness. Get this. It was about 87 people a day that were dying in the wilderness. Did you ever once think about that? Because I didn't, right? Reading some commentaries, I'm going, oh my gosh, I never thought of this. How many people? So for guys like Joshua and Caleb, every single day you're around death. People are getting buried. People are dying day in and day out, day in and day out. This guy grew up in slavery. He grew up in bondage. He's one of the spies that goes out. He comes back, and then he's wandering around in the wilderness. Well, just think about what his life is like. Amazing how faithful he was. And here he is. By the way, this is the shortest eulogy I've ever seen. Right? When you think about it, God is giving like the eulogy. It's like, hey, Moses is dead. All right, boom, time for you to step in here, Joshua. Did you ever think of, like, really? I'm like laughing as I'm reading this. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is like God's like, yeah, we're done here. And the Bible does tell us the children of Israel will spend 30 days mourning. In Deuteronomy, it tells us 30 days they will mourn Moses. But now God is like, it's time to move on. And that's all he says. He says, Moses is dead. 16 characters. No hashtags. It's like shorter than a tweet. Like, hey, this is it. It's over. Boom. Here you go, Joshua. It's time to move into what I have, and you're going to take the people in the promised land. Now, here's something else that really interested me in just the first 9 verses. Did you notice that 3 times in there he had to tell them to be strong and courageous? 3 times. In verses 6, in verse 7, and then in verse 9, he tells him, you need to be strong and courageous. Now, you may miss this, and it's easy to miss this, because if you go to Exodus 17, that is the first time we are introduced to this guy Joshua. First time that we read anything about him, second book of the Bible, chapter 17, right? It talks about him, and it talks about him being a warrior. It talks about him leading troops against a people called the Amalekites. Do you ever, right? You look in the Bible, and there's all these, right? You got Amalekites, you got Hittites, you got Canaanites, you got Terabites, you got all these bites that they're everywhere, right? So that's the first time that we see them, and it's a wonderful scene that is there. But here's what's wild about this. Why would God, here's what I'm getting at. Why would God have to tell him 3 times to be strong and courageous? Yes, he's older, but think about his past. I just said to you, he's one of the 2 spies that comes back with the faith to believe that God can give them the promised land. Not the other 10, but those 2, yes. Him and Caleb, yes. He is the same guy that has been a warrior. He's the same guy that has defeated, in battle. He's done very well for himself. But the story that I love that's so interesting to me is when the children of Israel are fighting the Amalekites, and many of you probably remember this, famous story in the Bible, is that Moses is on top of a hill, and he's holding up his arms, right? And when his arms were held up high, what happened as the children of Israel fighting the Amalekites? They were winning. They're winning. So there's Moses, and he's holding his hands up. He has his staff, and down in the valley, the children of Israel winning. Here's a picture for you to think about, right? But his hands get very tired, and then 2 guys, one of his brothers, right? You have Aaron, one of Moses' brothers, his older brother, and another guy named Hur. They're holding up Moses' hands the whole time. So imagine Moses when he's like holding up his arms, right? He's holding up his hands, and then he drops his hands and he sees things happening. I can imagine almost like there's like a guy over there that he doesn't really like, and maybe he keeps his hands down. He's like, can the Amalekites get that guy over there? And then he throws his arms up and they're winning. And he throws his hands down and they're losing. And then he throws his hands up and they're winning. And this is going on. And then finally, you see these 2 guys, they sit him on a rock and they're holding up his arms there. Now, who is down in the valley that is fighting? It's Joshua. Joshua is leading the troops. This is not a guy that's ever been a coward before. This guy is strong. This guy epitomizes courage. So I imagine he's probably down there and he's fighting and he's like tricking people out. And then he's looking up there and he's like, yeah, everybody's going to talk about you, Moses, getting your arms held up by Aaron and Hur when I'm the guy down here that's fighting in the valley. What about me? Right? That's what I think. I don't know. Y'all are tough. Am I on like y'all, you good? Okay. So I see that this story is great. He gets tired, and there is Joshua. He's down there in the valley. He is the one that's fighting. And then there's the verse. It says, Joshua defeated Amalek, the Amalekites, and his people with the edge of the sword. Tells us this guy is a fierce warrior. So, church, why does God have to tell him not once, not twice, but thrice to be strong and courageous? Did you ever think about it? Why would God have to tell Joshua? Now, is this a formidable task, taking over for a legend? This is the same guy, Moses, right? He had been given the law. He spoke face to face with God. He parted the Red Sea. So in a lot of ways, you're going, wow. Think about the things that Joshua had seen. This is what I think. I'm going to put this before you as we jump into this book. I think to a large extent, God was saying to Joshua, Joshua, you cannot rely on past experience. You cannot rely on everything that you have seen in the past. You see, church, you know what we've been talking about for a couple of years now? It's not about past experience, it's about presence. He was saying to him, I think, giving him a message that, hey, Joshua, that's great what you experienced in the past, but now you're going to have to just depend on me to lead these people, a grumbling people, a people that are going to be tough, to bring into the promised land. It's all about presence. It's not about your prowess. It's not about your experience. It's about the promise of my presence with you everywhere that you go. Church, do you realize? That's good. I'm preaching, that's good, because that's what the gospel is. The promise of his presence wherever we go. Listen, it's finding courage in his closeness, not our confidence. That's where we find courage. It's not our confidence. It's finding courage in the fact that he is present with us and everywhere we go. Joshua, I am going to be with you just like I was with Moses. My presence is going to be with you. It's not going to be about your might. It's not going to be about your power, and that is great, but it's going to be about what I do in you, my presence, as we go and as we move and as we take on, because there's going to be a lot of obstacles there. Church, can I just tell you, you know what I feel in the Spirit a little bit right now? You know what I feel in the Spirit right now? A lot of you are dealing with, and I'm just talking, this has nothing to do with anything I was going to preach. I feel like there are a lot of people in this room, you're living in tomorrow. I just feel it in the room. I'm just going to call it out. I feel in the room right now, there are a lot of people that are living in situations and circumstances that have nothing to do with today. You know what you are? You know what we are? We're time travelers. You know what we are? We're time travelers, church. We're always living in another time. And a lot of us in our minds, I feel like even right now, we're traveling to events and circumstances that the enemy wants to have us live in tomorrow about things that haven't even happened. And you know what we get? Do you ever travel? We get back from Europe, you get jet lagged. Anybody, do you ever experience jet lag? You get jet lagged. The enemy is making us jet lagged and tired because we're living in tomorrow and we're living in the past, but we're not living in today. Church, stay with me. We need to live in today, in this moment that God has given us. Give us today our daily bread and stop thinking about all these circumstances, that might happen, that should. No, all these things that we stress about, most of the time never happen. They just don't happen. And there we are stressing it even in church, and you go, oh my gosh, I got to do this later. Oh, it's really nice out. What am I going to do? Oh, I got this thing going on at work this week. Oh, is he going to be done yet? What is he doing? Serious? Come on, let's be real. Church, we need to live in today, in this moment. Joshua, I know there's going to be a lot of enemies. You're going to go to Ai. You have to go to Jericho. There's going to be a lot of people that you're going to have to fight. But you need to realize that you can find me. My presence will be with you every single step of the way. Can't time travel, church. We try to. Is it real, by the way? Can you really time travel? Yeah, people, there's a guy on Rogan that was talking about you could really time travel. I don't know. Can we? Maybe we can. I have no idea. This is what, let me put this up now. Oops. This is what T. Austin Sparks said. I love this quote. Listen to this. This is the bottom. This is the 30,000-foot view of what God is doing for us as Christians. This is the second half of the gospel. Courage, because we look at this story. I refuse to sit up here. Listen to me. It's not the God. I will not sit up here and tell you. I could preach I could have given you a lot of stories. I could give you inspirational story after inspirational story of people that showed incredible courage. But you know what? At the end of the day, it just brings us to those people, and it's not really the gospel. I love what Sparks says. His courage is not human bravery, because that's what we think it is. He says, but the soul's alignment with God's eternal purpose. He says God's eternal purpose is the increase and expression of His Son, Jesus Christ, in and through His people. What that means is what He has been looking for and what God cares about is a corporate representation, the church, of Jesus. So the church, the body of Christ, we are that corporate representation across the globe, right? Throughout the ages that represents Jesus Christ, who is living through that. That's what this is, reflecting back. Just like we individually reflect to the world His life that is living on the inside of us. I love this. That's what this is. It's not about our courage, human strength, that we can do this. That's not what this message is. That's not what's going on here in Joshua. Be strong and of good courage, Joshua. Every single place that you go, everywhere that your foot treads, Joshua, understand, I'm with you. It's holy ground. Do you ever hear the phrase growing up? I'll never forget this. Pastor Linda would say, when one of us got in trouble, it was probably more so my brother and my sister. It definitely wasn't me. You know what, Joe? You better put your foot down. Did you ever say that? Put your foot down? Did you ever say that to Naeem? Put his foot down? You better put your foot down with these kids. You guys are all amazing kids, right? Anybody in here, you ever said that to your husband? None of you ever did? No? Come on. Like, where am I? Come on. You're all liars. Leslie, your husband just called you right, 110%. You better do something. Wait till your dad comes home. You better put your foot down, right? So I would hear that. I would hear that growing up, like we did, and you just knew, right? Once mom, right? When mom got dad going, it was like dad was very calm. Dad was very relaxed. It took a lot to get him going. But when she started to you better put your foot down, it was like, you better run for the hills. Because you just knew what was coming. You knew you were going to get in trouble, right? Because dad was going to come home, and he didn't want to listen to mom. So the only way to get out of mom's doghouse is to take care of us, even if we were, I don't know, even if, and then it would be, he'd step in, and then it would be, Joe, and then she would, try to stop him. Right? You know what I'm talking, right? The father always comes in, and then it's like, what did I do wrong? You wanted me to come in and step in, and now you're mad at me because I overstepped in the situation. So true, right? I bring that up because that is, if you want an alternate title for the sermon today, I could say, put your foot down. Because he tells Joshua, everywhere the sole of your foot treads, man, that's your land. This is the promised land. But guess what? We have to step into the land. You have to put your foot down. He's not going to do it for us. Talking about living the exchange life and letting another life live in you, the only way that happens is if we actually step into the promised land. Do you know what the promised land is, by the way? The promised land is Jesus. He is the promised land. You don't see people today, go to any commentary today, people don't say, that's the truth. Jesus is the promised land. In Ephesians, he talks about our spiritual inheritance as Christians, right? In Joshua, and you have to see the typology. Joshua is a type of Christ, and I could go crazy into that. I'm not right now. But understand, Ephesians, why it's a great connection. Ephesians, we talked about our spiritual inheritance as Christians. Joshua is talking about our inheritance as Christians, but the inheritance is none other than Jesus. Jesus is everything. It's not that you get all this stuff and all these promises. Do you realize the promises are all wrapped up in Jesus? And we separate. A lot of Christians, I want this, health, this, that, all these things, and they're great. But when you get him, you get all the other stuff. When you go for the presence and when you go for him, and he's not a means to an end, he is the end in and of itself. That's who he is. You can clap for that because that's not me, that's who he is. So you see here, this book is going to be divided to a couple of parts. First part, we have chapters 1 through 5. We're just us entering the land. Then chapters 6 through 12. Conquering it. Some of the parts, there's a lot of names as you go in. I mean, the end of the book, the epilogue is amazing, right, as Joshua was dying, but we're going to maybe skip around a little bit. But we think it's an amazing connection to what we've already talked about. Now, to what I just said before, Pastor Linda turned me on to a guy, A.B. Simpson, right? Another name that Pastor Linda talked about for a long period. I love the land is Christ himself. We have to see that. Just ruminate on this during the week. It's him. The land that we're going to talk about, that we have to go into, that you have to step into, is him. Go find, listen, I'm not propping us up. She helps me immensely. Listen, by the way, how hard did I wrestle? It was like, this was now I know what a battle. Just to get out and even do this. The simple intro to the series. And I'm fighting right up to the last minute this morning. just fighting. I don't know why. Now I know why. I get it. I'm not going to get into this because there's other reasons, but I love what he's saying here. The land is Christ himself, and every promise of God is fulfilled. I mean, that's it. Beautiful. Doesn't get any better than this. He's right. He identifies this. But we have to take it. We have the authority. How many of you ever watched the show The Crown? You can come up. I'm basically done. I'm done. I'm going to wrap up. Simple. The Crown. Did you ever watch The Crown? All right, so I never watched The Crown. So, I read a lot. I read a lot, but I'll take notes and just file stuff away. I'll read a story here in a book or something. I'll see an article, and I just put it away, and I'm like, even like somebody sent me something today. There was a tweet this morning. I still call it tweets. I don't care. I don't know what a post on X, whatever. So somebody sent me something like, that's an amazing story. I'm going to file that away for a sermon in the future. But the show The Crown, all right, Queen Elizabeth. So the show was on, I think it was like 2016 to 2023. And there's an amazing scene. I haven't watched the scene, but I read about it and was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. So the scene is Queen Elizabeth, real history, right, who is going to become, she's going to be the queen, she's going to be on the throne, right? So there she is with her crown, and she is working with balancing the crown on her head. So, I mean, think about it. Like, it's like she's trying to figure all this out, and she's working with it, and her assistant is right there. So she says to the assistant in the show, I don't know if you remember this, do you think it would be okay if I took the crown, if I borrowed it, and got used to it, and worked with it for a little while so that when the people actually see me, it'll be on my head and it'll look the way it's supposed to and I'll carry myself the way a queen is supposed to carry. And with that, the assistant quipped back to her, and I love this, oh, queen, however the way he said, you already own the crown. It's already yours. You don't have to ask to borrow it. You're already the queen. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, that is such an amazing picture. We are, as sons and daughters, we already have the life of Christ living on the inside of us. We already have, the promised land is ours. The problem is that we don't just go take it. And it's not by brute force. The only courage that you need is to live from another life, and it's all about surrender. It's all about just giving in. That's how we do it as we move in. But there are going to be enemies. And Pastor Linda and I have been talking about, and I don't know how she's going to do it because she's the queen of this, right? Not me. To tie in, how do we tie in some of the enemies and the blocks that there are for us as Christians in terms of our past and being emotionally healthy? Because some of that ties in. And again, I haven't seen anybody that is able to marry the two, so she's going to do it, not me. But to look at how do we marry these two things together? This is part of what we want, and we're seeking the Lord on how to do it in a way that is meaningful and is life-giving. We don't ever want to lose what we're talking about, the foundation of whose life, where we're living from, right? And understanding that Christ in us. But to also understand that there are barriers and there are enemies that are going to be at play as we try to move into that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. Do you want a story for me to end, like another story, or no? Because I had a story. I wasn't going to share this, and I was going to save it for next week, or maybe never use it ever again. So I'll prepare a sermon. I have other quotes. I have other stuff in here. Oops. That I don't even know. Like, I'm not using that. Alan read, that was a great quote, too, but I'm not even using it. All right. Now, many of you saw the movie Chariots of Fire. How many of you saw the movie Chariots of Fire? Right? It's the story of Eric Liddell, who in 1924, Paris, France, he wins the gold medal in the 400-meter race. But the amazing part is he's a 100-meter sprint. He's a sprinter. He does the 100-meter dash. True story. If you never watched Chariots of Fire, it's a little boring at times in the beginning. You just got to get to the end because the end is just epic. The song they've used, da, 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 da. I grew up my whole life, and I'm telling them I grew up my whole life with Pastor Joe at Chariots of Fire. I remember as a kid, I probably fell asleep 10 times trying to watch that movie. And then as I got older, I'm like, this story's crazy, but here's the amazing part. So he winds up winning, and I love this. Dad, this is kind of cool. There are real pictures you can look at. He was known for his running style, that he would flail his arms and he would always throw his head back. And there's that scene in the movie when he's talking to his sister. You hear them, it's his voice. And he's like, I try not to cry. It's that point where you just get so moved by it. And he says, Jenny, talking to his sister, God made me fast, but he also made me for a purpose. And when I run, I feel his good pleasure. He was given before the race, one of his, another runner gave him a little piece of paper. And it was a verse from the Bible. He who honors me, I will honor. Because Eric Little is running a race he never trained for because he didn't want to run on the Sabbath. He chooses not to run on the Sabbath, which is when the 100-meter dash is going to be. So they're like, okay, what are we going to do with him? He winds up running in the 400, and he sets a world record. So it's an amazing story. The guy never trained for this. Listen, here's my real point, though. What the movie doesn't talk about is what I want to mention to you. And the best part of Eric Little's story, you saw the movie Chariots of Fire. A lot of people don't know this. The year after he wins the gold medal, you know what he does? Stardom. Everybody's like knows who this guy is. He goes to China to be a missionary. He was born in China, right? He's 43 years old, goes to China to be a missionary. Now, at this time in history, Japan is invading China. He gets married, has 3 daughters. When it gets really bad, he sends them to Canada for their safety, the wife and the 3 kids. He's like, you're going to go, I'm going to stay. He winds up getting put in an internment camp, a Japanese camp. He is allowed to leave if he wants to. He chooses to stay because he wants to teach all the people that he wants to teach the Bible. He wanted to help people. He gave up his food. He helped everybody everywhere he could. He was light. He was salt. But the thing that I saw was he said, I'm going to turn that prison into a mission field. And he said, everywhere the sole of my foot goes, God is with me, and that's going to be holy ground, and I'm going to move ahead and trust that there's another life that's in me. And the last words he says, he dies of brain cancer in there at 45 years old in that camp. But he's a man I can't wait to meet one day. When we go to heaven, his last words, ready? 2 words. Total surrender. Those are the last words of this guy, Eric Little, before he goes on to glory. He says it's total surrender. Church, it's total surrender. Wherever you are, wherever we move, wherever we go, it's surrender. And as we come to the table this morning, we surrender. It's not our plans. Joshua, guess what? It's not about your plans. It's about my purpose. And it's about what I want to do. You may have your plans and all these ideas of what you thought you were going to do at 80 years old, but guess what? I have different plans for you. You need to be strong and courageous, Joshua. You know why? Because you're going to, like we talked about with the armor a couple of weeks ago, Joshua, you need to be bold and courageous, but this way. The thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to stand up and you're going to want to fight in your own power. Joshua, you're going to want to fight in your own power. You need to going and courageous to surrender to me on a moment-to-moment basis, because that's the only way it's going to happen. You're going to go up against enemies that are bigger than you and stronger than you. Church, that's the same thing that we're going through. There are enemies that are bigger and strong, but guess what? We come to a table where it is completely finished. It is done. And we can come here, and when you run you realize you have your one and only race that you're running, and I'm running, and we're running together, and we're running side by side. To feel that, obstacles and circumstances, to run and to go, oh God, I feel your good pleasure as I'm moving. To feel that as you move, and it doesn't mean life's going to be easy, because it's not. But to know that he is with us, and he can live through us. It's all about surrender. Surrender everything. So we come to the table as we close this meeting today. And guess what? You're the next man and woman that are up to come to the table this morning. You're next up. So when you come to this table this morning and you put your foot down as you're moving, I want you to think about what God is saying to you about moving deeper into this revelation and moving into the promises of what he has. But moving in with surrender. Just surrender it as you come to the table. Whatever you have going on, let go. Let go of the issues and the circumstances and things that you can't control, and the things that might happen, and he's going to try to soak around. It's the mind, right? And that's where the devil attacks. That's the top area. If we can have a renewed mind, but how do we do that? And we're going to keep talking about that more as we move on in this series again, just as an introduction. But we come here. Joshua is again, typology. He is a type of Christ. And we come here to the ultimate warrior. We come here to the Savior of the world. And we're so thankful. Lord, I'm thankful this morning that you are our promised land. That we walk in and there are giants, there are enemies that we're going to go up against and we're going to face. But we can rely on your life. We can rely on you and step into. Lord, give us faith to step into this life, the rest of the gospel, to rest in you and not try to fight in our own power and try to battle everything and do what we think we can do and just rely on you and your life and your power. We don't have to yell. We don't have to scream. There is just your presence and there is power. Lord, you're here, Lord. You're here this morning. I'm thankful that you live inside of us, but I'm thankful, Lord, even for us as a corporate body here at City on a Hill Community Church, that we together are an expression of you, a corporate expression as your life is lived through us. And people get to see that as we move out of here. So bless every person, Lord, that comes up here, whatever they were carrying in here today, Father. I ask that they would just let it down, let it go, release it in your name. Amen. Ushers.
The moon and the stars, they wept. The morning sun was dead. The Savior of the world was fallen. His body on the cross, his blood poured out for us. The weight of every curse upon him. One final breath he gave as heaven looked away. The Son of God was laid in darkness, a battle in the grave. The war on death was waged, the power of hell forever broken. The ground began to shake, the stone was rolled away. His perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated.
Forever he is glorified. Forever he is lifted high. Forever he is risen. He is alive.
sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. We sing hallelujah. And we sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome.
We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. Oh, we sing hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. Forever He is glorified. Forever He is lifted high. Forever He is risen. He is alive. He is alive. Oh, forever He is glorified. Forever He is lifted high. Forever He is risen. He is alive. He is alive.
Oh, he's alive.
You thankful that he's overcome? You thankful that he's overcome?
Yeah.
Death, hell, and the grave. Nothing can hold us. You have a great week. Hang out. You want to talk to people. Don't just rush out of here. Maybe talk to somebody you haven't talked to. Have a conversation. We have the women's meeting next Saturday, not this coming Saturday. Men's meeting this Thursday, 9:30.
9:30.
A lot going on. Get plugged in somehow. We got some cool announcements coming in the future about some social events
Yeah.
that will be taking place. All right. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.